The first season of Bob's Burgers is a decent start to its run. Sure, the animation looks primitive and the jokes can be hit or miss, but the one element that's fairly well developed from the get-go are the Belchers themselves. Every voice actor brings 1,000,000%, establishing each character as distinct, likable, and hilarious in their own way. Very early on, I knew Louise was my favorite.
But first, you gotta make some money for Mommy. Okay, babies?
If you're going artsy, then you're going all the way. Someone's cutting off an ear.
Never look back! You are dead to us!
Kristen Schaal does an incredible job at balancing her character's often deranged antics with genuine sincerity. She made a conversation about her farts smelling different from Bob's actually kind of emotional.
It's so incredible your farts smell like mine.
Oh, great. Are you guys bonding again?
I'm sorry, but that's a huge discovery.
I swear my farts smell like your farts, Dad.
I don't think so, Louise.
Like I said, some jokes fall a bit flat, but every episode has something positive to offer. Some keep the momentum going better than others, however. Art Crawl, Torpedo, and Crawl Space all possess many moments that still make me laugh hard every time I watch them.
What's the name of that restaurant?
It's God,
Bob's
I'm there every
Burgers!
day. It's
Bob's Burgers!
Is the first season of Bob's Burgers anything great? No, but it has seeds of greatness, which would thankfully blossom in the years that followed.
Butts are beautiful. 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 Butts.
Bob's Burgers' second season improved significantly on the first, with smoother animation and punchier, albeit still relatively hit-or-miss humor. Bob Day Afternoon is my personal favorite of the season. The episode introduced two characters who have become recurring favorites of mine. I absolutely loved Bill Hader as Mickey. For an initial bank robber, he's surprisingly really charming and laid back, and even develops a bizarre friendship with the Belchers going forward. Gary Cole as the cynical Sergeant Bosco also got several laughs. Plus, Gene's robot college fantasy had me howling.
Oh. I was just performing routine maintenance. Doesn't anyone knock around here, please?
Bad Tina was another standout that centered around Tina being blackmailed into going on a rebellious streak with Tammy in her debut appearance. The ending, in which Tina reads aloud her so-called erotic friend fiction during lunch, is a classic Bob's Burgers moment, and one of the most delightfully inappropriate. I especially love how Linda encouraged Tina not to let anyone embarrass her, before realizing she may have indirectly caused a catastrophe.
She's gonna read erotic friend fiction out loud at school.
Oh my god! What have I done?
Not to mention, Bob playing patty cake with Teddy legit kills me.
I don't like it. Stop!
Keep your hands up.
I don't like it. I don't like this.
Keep them up!
Just stop, Bob. I don't like it.
Joe, lower your hands. Teddy!
On the other hand, episodes like Beef Squatch and Dr. Yap rank much lower for me on the totem pole. The former not only made Bob and Gene way too vindictive towards each other, to the point where it felt uncomfortably out of character, it was also just too chaotic and noisy throughout. In a similar vein, Dr. Yap mishandled Linda's character to the point of unlikability. We all know she's very protective of Gail, but even I can't buy that she would placate her sister wanting to have an affair with Bob. I know that's part of the joke and all, but when Gail literally forced herself on Bob, Linda still wouldn't drop the dumb charade and even unfairly slapped him. So yes, while it doesn't have every kink worked out from its predecessor, Season 2 is where Bob's Burgers started to find its footing, and it would continue to improve in the years that followed. Season 3 is where Bob's Burgers kicked itself into high gear. It was the first season to have an episode for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, all of which remain classics in the show's run. I especially enjoyed an indecent Thanksgiving proposal for its enjoyably ludicrous plot. The episode centered around Calvin Fischoeder hiring Linda and the kids to pose as his family in order to gain the attention of an old flame who's only attracted to married men. Some of the funniest scenes revolved around Tina, Gene, and Louise competing to be the best Fischoeder kid in exchange for prize tickets.
Here, Father, let me refill your glass. You must be dehydrated from being so wonderful.
Take it down a notch or two.
Hey, Dad, remember when we did that thing that was fun and memorable?
That's pathetic.
It also introduced the concept of Bob's borderline obsession with Thanksgiving, which has often led to hilarious character-driven bits.
Which one of you lucky fellas wants to get eaten by me this Thursday? Me?
No, me.
Okay, settle down, everyone.
Sheesh, Dad, get an oven.
Full Bars is a solid Halloween adventure that follows the Belcher kids trick-or-treating on the affluent King's Head Island and outsmarting a gang of merciless bullies. The Beast storyline centers around Teddy interrogating his party guests after his beloved pet guinea pig is crushed to death, and while not quite as strong as the main plot, it does have its moments.
Can I have my shoes back now? I'm the only one here with uneven legs.
Quit milking that leg, Wobbles.
Whoa, that's not funny, Teddy.
It's okay, it's my last name.
Other classics include Earsy Rider, which focused on a bully sending Louise spiraling by stealing her trademark bunny ears. The episode builds to a pretty badass revenge, which also remains one of Louise's definitive moments. Carpe Museum is another fantastic Louise-centric episode that further explored her relationship with Bob. One of my favorite moments in the entire series is when Louise accidentally reveals her desire to run the restaurant someday, making Bob realize she does legitimately admire him despite her caustic attitude.
I was just saying.
You're taking over the family business?
Yeah, right.
Ha! Admit it, you look up to me. Oh my god, am I your hero?
My favorite of the season, however, might be Mother-Daughter Laser Razor, which touched upon Louise's obvious preference for Bob over Linda.
Mom, it's over. You ruined it, okay? You mommed it all up.
Dad's here. Did he dad it all up?
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
Full of hilarity and insight, the episode remains one of my all-time favorites. Linda and Louise would eventually grow closer, proving that although Bob's Burgers isn't particularly driven by continuity, the characters do evolve and learn as the years pass, despite them never aging. With all that said, I can't quite say that Season 3 is total perfection. I personally found Nude Beach and Family Fracas to be annoyingly mean-spirited. They're honestly some of my least favorite episodes in the series. However, that doesn't even come close to ruining an otherwise first-rate season that birthed so many classic moments. From Tina wrecking the car, to Louise developing her first crush, to Fischoeder and Gale performing Electric Love, Season 3 is easily one of the finest eras in all of Bob's Burgers.
They say Thomas Edison, he's the man to get us into this century. And that man is me. Electric love. Electric love. Electric love. Electric love.
For me, it's difficult to decide if Bob's Burgers' third or fourth season is better. Season 3 had a larger quantity of standout episodes, so I would probably rank it just a bit higher. However, there were no episodes from Season 4 that I actually disliked, which is something I couldn't quite say for its immediate predecessor. There were a couple lesser ones, sure, but in the end, I was still entertained by them. Turkey in a Can is my personal favorite Thanksgiving episode of the show, and centers around Bob becoming increasingly flustered by each turkey he bakes being repeatedly placed in the toilet by an unknown perp. I especially loved Bob's interactions with the butcher, who mistakenly interprets him buying multiple turkeys as proposing an affair. I like how he's somewhat drawn in by the end, hinting that he might be a little bi-curious, but of course stays faithful to Linda.
Oh my god, we're doing this.
No, we're not.
Hey, what do you want to do?
I don't,
You don't go to the beach? Huh?
No, maybe. Wait, I'm straight. I mean, I'm mostly straight. Also, I'm married. But if I wasn't, who am I kidding? You're out of my league. It would never work.
Fortnite is a terrific Halloween episode that introduces Molly Shannon as the conniving Millie, who remains one of the funniest and easily the creepiest antagonists in the series. Even some of the episodes from this season that aren't particularly held in the highest regard are a bit underrated in my opinion. Ambergris follows the Belcher kids coming across a valuable substance that Louise plans to illegally sell on the black market. Seeing her slowly become mentally corrupted, similar to Gollum in the Ring of Power, is absolutely hysterical.
Nowhere else to go, Tina. Hand it over. I want that money!
What?
What part of... Don't you understand?
The episode also features the debut of Calvin Fischoeder's brother Felix, played by Zach Galifianakis, who would make one hell of a return in the season 2-part finale, Wharf Horse and World War II. Until the movie came out, this was the largest scale plot the series had ever tackled. I actually found it interesting how many callbacks the film made to this pair of episodes. The family is once again put in a life-threatening situation that brings them closer. Jordan Peele reappears as Felix's hilariously shallow girlfriend, Fanny. Another one of Calvin's relatives tries to murder him for power. Even Tina's devastation at seeing the carousel horses get destroyed is referenced again. In spite of all this repeating, however, the film nevertheless managed to succeed on its own merits as well, as did Season 4 as a whole. It met the impressively high standards set by Season 3, and would top itself yet again going into its next year on the air.
Your own private island, a million eye patches, a gold swimming pool to hold all of your caches. I'd hire real waiters who all have mustaches. Oh, nice things are nice. A legion of servants all at your command. An army of tigers like you always planned.
I could buy my own missiles to launch at England. Never mind, I'm not telling you.
My sophisticated burgers, they would understand. Oh, nice things are nice.
Season 5 of Bob's Burgers might be my personal favorite year of its run so far. It held 0 episodes that I disliked, and included some of the show's most exceptional installments. 2 of my favorites, The Odor Games and Dawn of the Peck, presented stories that were slightly larger in scale than normal, albeit not to the point where it felt too outlandish. Their outrageous premises were tempered by the series' slice-of-life format, trademark humor, and even a bit of heart. Speaking of which, Season 5 is also home to some truly moving character moments. Whereas Late Afternoon in the Garden put Bob and Louise's relationship to the test, Hawk and Chick reaffirmed the strength of their bond in what might be their finest half hour together. The story followed the two meeting their favorite martial arts film star and attempting to reunite him with his estranged daughter, which may hold a connection to their own relationship. I love how this episode provided a couple hints to what was going through Louise's mind even before it was fully revealed at the end. It made the heartwarming payoff feel more earned.
This Hawk and this chick will never not talk for 30 years.
You promise?
Yes, of course, Louise.
Even Late Afternoon still provided insight to how close Bob and Louise are despite mostly focusing on the conflict between them. I love at the end when Louise admits,
The restaurant is our place, and I like it that way.
I know you do. I mean, sort of. I had a suspicion, but you do hide it pretty well.
aside from Boys for Now, Tina Taylor Soldier Spy may have been the first episode to legitimately make me care about Tina and Louise's relationship without me even realizing it. Much like Hawk and Chick, the clues were subtle, and yet made the ending very sweet.
Well, I made this friendship bracelet for you.
I'm not really a jewelry person.
You don't have to wear it.
No, I'm gonna wear it forever. Back off.
Although I generally prefer Gene as the support, this season actually gave him a few high-tier episodes as the star, including Best Burger, Work Hard or Die Trying Girl, and the Itty Bitty Ditty Committee. Unlike Beef Squatch, all 3 of these knew how to balance out his antics by utilizing the best aspects of his character and giving him a legitimate arc in each one. Eat Spray Linda delivers one of the finest Linda-centric stories to date, while also giving the rest of the family plenty of room to shine. Not to mention, the Militarian candidate was one hell of a return for Molly Shannon's deviously crazy role.
The new rule will make us besties, and if it doesn't, I'll change it again, and I'll change it again, because you will be my bestie. And if I have to get rid of Abby or Mabel or whoever, I will!
For me, Season 5 is Bob's Burgers at its peak. Make no mistake, I love the show before and after, and I personally believe it has yet to jump the shark. However, no other season is quite as reliably outstanding as this one is. There are some episodes from other seasons that I think are just a bit stronger than the best this one has to offer. Regardless, I would still probably say this is my favorite for its consistent high quality as a whole.
99 red balloons floating in the summer sky. Panic bells, it's red alert. Something here from somewhere else. The wall machine springs to life, opens up one eager eye, focusing in on the sky. When 99 red balloons go by, 99 Decision Street, 99 ministers meet. The worry, super scurry. Call the troops out in a hurry. The president is on the line. As 99 red balloons go by. 99 red balloons go by.
Season 6 of Bob's Burgers marks yet another high point for the series, despite possessing a few more run-of-the-mill episodes such as Secret Admiral and Sexy Dance Healing. which aren't bad by any means, just average. Honestly, the only episode I actually disliked this season was Sacred Couch. Something about watching the Belchers obsess over a sofa just didn't quite click for me. Aside from that, however, Season 6 does contain some all-time greats, including my two favorite episodes of the entire series, The Haunting and Glued Where's My Bob. Both thoughtfully blend an abundance of hilarious jokes with ample heart and some of the show's best original songs. Other standouts include Stand By Jean, Lice Things Are Lice, and The Cook, The Steve, The Gale, and Her Lover, all of which I would definitely place in the upper ranks of the series. While it may fall a tad short of its immediate predecessors as a whole, Season 6 nevertheless retains all of the aspects that make Bob's Burgers such a wholesome and hilarious show.
Let them see me with my pants down. Coasters magazine is gonna be my big chance now. They'll be out of here no time, no time. All you're doing will be fine, just fine. Today is going to be a great day. Coasters magazine, I'm gonna move it on away.
Season 7 of Bob's Burgers is a slight step up from its immediate predecessor as a whole, despite never quite reaching the same heights as last year's The Haunting or Glued Where's My Bob. Tina Witch is one of the more peculiar Halloween episodes, which is saying a lot. Billy Eichner steals the show as the enigmatic Mr. Ambrose, who introduces Tina to the world of witchcraft. Although the spells he passes on to her are clearly baloney, his intense conviction to the subject leads to some hilarious moments.
And I'm sorry I ever listened to you about witchcraft, Mr. Ambrose. I have no idea what she's talking about. Stop it! Shh!
Jackie the Crossing Guard, who's said to be a particularly vindictive witch herself, is both very funny and surprisingly intimidating.
You can keep crossing now.
Wait, but...
Even Jimmy Pesto got a few laughs in this.
Pumpkinhead's lost his gourd.
Mental illness, no joke.
No, don't say mental illness. Come on, you're ruining it. Just
Not a joke.
listen, just go inside, would you?
It's a disease.
Would you go inside? I'm talking about.
Thelma and Louise Except Thelma is Linda is a first-rate episode that centers around Louise getting in trouble for defending another student from a bully. I love how Linda decides that Louise deserves a reward for her noble intentions and doesn't want her to be discouraged from helping others. Being punished for standing up to bullying is extremely frustrating, and I appreciate how this episode provided some understanding for that. Bob actually is easily my favorite Valentine's Day episode of the series, and provides each member of the Belcher family with their own romantic storyline, which coheres surprisingly smoothly. Overall, Bob's Burgers' 7th year on the air is another terrific season of television, rife with hilarity and heart as usual.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing.
I can't say that Season 8 of Bob's Burgers is quite its strongest, as it does contain some of my least favorite episodes, in particular Sleeping with the Frenemy. Tammy has her moments in other episodes such as Mazel Tina, but this one gives her way too much focus and too little consequence for her insufferable behavior. I also found Boy Watch and Go Tina on the Mountain to be pretty forgettable and not especially funny. Season 8 isn't without significant merit, however, as it does feature some true standouts as well. V for Valentine Detta follows Linda and Louise bringing a jilted Tina on a girls' night out in order to cheer her up. The episode's scene stealer by far is Jillian Bell as Nat the limo driver, who brings so much infectious energy to her role. I especially love her interactions with Louise, which thankfully continue in later appearances.
Girl power on 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, 16!
Let her finish, Mom! Let her finish!
Girl power.
8.
I also appreciate how this episode doesn't neglect Bob and Jean, providing them with a pretty funny subplot that allows them to bond as well. Are You There, Bob? It's Me Birthday is one of the very few episodes that features Hugo in a primary role, and yet still succeeds wonderfully. As much as I couldn't stand him in the early seasons, I will admit he has become a bit more tolerable over the years. I still don't find him very funny, but I can stomach his scenes much easier than I could before. I like how he even gives Bob some decent advice about how his birthday should mainly be about him appreciating his family's efforts, even if they aren't exactly what he finds ideal. It makes the ending even more touching when the rest of the Belchers actually give him the most perfect birthday celebration he could ask for. The Bleak Ending might be my favorite Christmas episode of the show, and Brunch Squatch was a unique experiment, incorporating a plethora of animation styles submitted by various fans. While Season 8 of Bob's Burgers may not be its finest, there were only a couple episodes I truly disliked. It contained no shortage of gems, and even some of the lesser ones were still decent.
This wedding is my war zone, and I'm the doctor in it. I've got to save their special day, gotta cater it to the limit. Something so important, our burgers were their Cupid. Gotta give Farrah and what's his name a perfect reception to prove my job's not stupid. But so I take these puns to have and hold night.
All you can do is do your
Toast them perfect so their love grows old.
They are a couple of
Do I need this more than anything?
Do I think you've lost your mind on this?
I do.
In my opinion, Bob's Burgers' 9th season marks a bit of an improvement from its immediate predecessor. The hits are much stronger, and the misses are easy to bear. On a side note, have I mentioned that Calvin Fisher is one of my favorite characters?
Like paying off arsonists, showering and shaving.
Wait, did you just say paying off arsonists?
No, I said playing golf with pharmacists.
Kevin Kline brings so much deadpan charisma and wonderful eccentricity to his role, and Season 9 contains some of its finest appearances. The Taking a Fun Time 1-2-3 is a high-tier episode full of hilarity and infectious fun that centers around Fish Odor assisting the Belcher kids and their friends in pulling off an arcade heist. Even the subplot with Bob and Linda being given a chicken was pretty funny.
Amazing grace, how sweet.
No, you're putting her to sleep. Make an egg roll from your egg hole. We're gonna beat it, and then we'll eat it.
Roman Bobaday is another standout focused on a stress-ridden Bob who's forced into taking the day off, yet still finds himself craving work. I really liked the friendship that builds between him and another restaurant owner played by Tiffany Haddish, and how they ultimately help each other learn to prioritize their free time better. Bob clearly loves his job, but this episode effectively teaches that the stress of keeping business afloat can sometimes take a larger toll than you might realize.
You're acting weird.
No, you're acting weird.
You just put mustard on me. I'm not supposed to have mustard.
I know what you have on you. I invented you. Now I'm gonna put tons of mustard on you. What do you think about that?
Other highlights include The Fresh Principal and Better Off Sled. I feel like any episode centered around Louise duking it out with one of her enemies is usually very solid, and both of these continue that trend in hilarious fashion. There were definitely some odd ones this season, but even those could sometimes get a laugh. Every Which Way But Goose focused on Tina developing an intimate connection with exactly that, a goose. Some scenes got a little unorthodox, but I can't say I didn't find them amusing. On the whole, I really enjoyed Season 9. A good handful of these I would definitely place in the upper ranks of the show. As someone who enjoyed the season prior, albeit not as highly as some of the others, I was pleasantly surprised with how this one actually stepped up its game a bit.
It's the 4th of July. Oh, nothing makes me happier than the smell of a freshly baked bun. Nothing makes me happier than a burger that's perfectly done. Oh, the crumpled up napkin all covered in grease. The french fries so crisp that you'll call the police. It's not bragging to say that they might cause world peace. Nothing makes me happier than cooking again and again. But nothing makes me happier than them.
In comparison to what preceded it, Season 10 of Bob's Burgers mostly plays it safe with its storytelling. I wouldn't place any episodes from the season on the highest tier of the show. However, that's not to say I disliked most of them, as even the worst ones didn't really get under my skin, they were just a little dull. Hoops I Didn't Do It Again is another wonderful Bob and Louise episode that focuses on a shared predicament of theirs and how they ultimately help each other overcome it. I feel like their connection is conveyed very naturally here without having to be spelled out. The series often drops hints to suggest that Bob and Louise have a very close bond even when their relationship is not at the forefront.
Dad doesn't like parties very much.
Or surprises.
Or us. Well, you guys.
Dad, I love you.
I love you too, Dad.
I love you for real, not like these posers.
Just so you know, I'm always available to come pick you up, even in college, or on business trips, or your honeymoon, whatever.
The Ring But Not Scary was a welcome return for Nat the limo driver, and A Fish Called Tina contained one of the funnier B-plots of the season, featuring Bob and Linda suffering the fallout of exercise.
Oh, so sore. I can't move.
It's like labor and babies were coming out everywhere.
Did we get hit by a truck while we were asleep?
Even Pig Trouble and Little Tina, for as gross as it can be, still delivers some very funny one-liners.
It turns out all I had to do to get invited was impress the other 8th graders by making fun of my fetal pig. And I feel totally fine about it because it's just a dead pig and I'm a human girl going on a romantic hayride.
Aren't those the lyrics to a Taylor Swift song?
While season 10 does feel somewhat inferior to the best years of the show by comparison, it still succeeds as a solid chapter in the Belchers' lives. Season 11 of Bob's Burgers is a marginal improvement over its predecessor that features some exemplary standouts. With that said, it is still home to a handful of mediocre installments that I sometimes found legitimately aggravating. Luckily, however, the good far outweighs the bad. Bob Belcher and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Kids is a particularly strong outing that features Tina, Jean, and Louise apparently setting the restaurant on fire by accident just before the busiest day of the year. Putting its trademark humor and catchy songs aside, what I most enjoyed about this episode is how it portrayed the immense guilt felt by the Belcher kids. They're not just remorseful, they legitimately believe what they did makes them horrible.
We are horrible. And we felt horrible about being so horrible. And then we almost did something horrible because we felt horrible about being horrible.
Bob has made it no secret that he doesn't exactly hold his children's restaurant skills in the highest regard. In fact, even the show itself has made fun of it.
You're my family and I love you, but you're terrible. You're all terrible.
I don't say that.
Well, that's all you say.
In this episode, however, he does clarify that he doesn't truly see them that way. And it's moments like this that affirm how no amount of misfortune could ever pull the Belchers apart from each other.
You kids are great. Maybe the best ever.
You love us, you love us.
I do.
Nerds!
Plus, I will admit, it was very cathartic to see Hugo finally receive some comeuppance for his actions. Vampire Disco Death Dance is another highlight that focuses on Bob bringing Tina and her friends to a late-night screening of a movie from his childhood. I love how Tina does show legitimate interest in what Bob has to share with her. In fact, her true frustration comes from her friends mostly dismissing it. It leads to a very moving heart-to-heart between her and Bob that might be one of the series' sweetest moments. Diarrhea of a Poopy Kid is a creative and fun Thanksgiving anthology episode, although I do have thoughts about Jean wanting to be married to Linda in one of the stories. If you thought that was uncomfortable, however, Mommy Boy stretches the awkwardness of that one scene throughout most of the episode, making Jean come across particularly antagonistic and even a little unsettling. The subplot of Bob, Tina, and Louise boxing with each other was cute though. My least favorite episode of the season was the Terminator 2 Terminals of Endearment. Mommy Boy was at least trying to get a decent lesson across despite handling it poorly. This might be the first episode of Bob's Burgers to actually teach something I fully disagree with, which is, if a family member is treating you like dirt, just let them. I get that Bob ultimately decides just to put up with Linda's mother for his wife's sake, but all he was saying before is they shouldn't let her walk all over them. And yeah, I really agree. Linda got mad at Bob for trying to return something her own mother deliberately stole from her. I really don't see how he's supposed to be in the wrong here. The unlikability of Linda's mom carried no joy. She was just plain obnoxious with no good humor to back her up. The episode pretty much ended with Bob being emotionally restricted from ever confronting her, which I don't see as a very healthy solution at all. With that said, season 11 does contain some of my favorite Jimmy Pesto moments. I will admit I'm generally split on his character. Sometimes he gets a laugh, but other times, particularly in the episode Family Fracas, he can sometimes fall into the same trap as Hugo and Linda's mom of being too annoying for his own good. This season, however, actually gave him some really great scenes, including one where he admits that despite their feud, he actually does have respect for Bob as a cook. My personal favorite, though, is when the two of them face off in a meditation competition with Mort as the judge.
You know, when you think about it, there's no my point or Jimmy's point. It's just 1 point we all share.
10 points for Bob.
Despite a few other misses here and there, season 11 still delivers more than enough quality episodes to keep the momentum of Bob's Burgers going strong. Bob's Burgers' 12th season is a bit more hit or miss than most ones prior. I've realized that a fair amount of Gene-centric episodes are usually among the weakest. Don't get me wrong, he can sometimes be utilized well as the star in episodes like the Itty Bitty Ditty Committee. However, the last few seasons have not been hitting it out of the park with his character, at least for me. Seven Tween Again and A Sprout a Boy were some of my least favorite episodes this season, largely because I found Gene annoyingly whiny and regressive in both. The Thanksgiving episode also didn't quite hit for me this season, mostly due to its setup. We all know that Bob is a Thanksgiving fanatic, and we also know that Louise isn't too crazy about work. However, the one major misstep this episode made was having Bob be the reason Louise didn't want to help in the kitchen. The two of them usually have such a nice relationship, so this honestly felt pretty out of character, especially for Louise. In all fairness, however, the episode does stick the landing by having her still acknowledge him as a great dad, but I don't think that's really enough to say it was enjoyable as a whole. Nevertheless, the season still holds a sufficient number of gems just like any other. One of my favorites was definitely the Spider House Rules, which focused on Louise confronting some of her wilder tendencies and questioning if there might actually be something wrong with her. I think this episode really does showcase how much Louise has evolved over the course of the series, providing her with some solid character growth while still remaining true to who she is as a person. There's a really nice moment toward the end in which Bob and Linda express their understanding of Louise's thirst for mischief, and also acknowledge her thoughtfulness and lack of malice. The highlight of the season by far, though, was its two-part finale, Some Like It Bot, which followed Tina being shaken to the core by Tammy's hurtful comments about her shirt, and expressing her frustration through her erotic friend fiction. Putting its out-of-the-box creativity aside, this episode tackles relatable themes with a fresh perspective. Everyone has been ridiculed in some way before, and I absolutely love the way in which Bob and Linda comfort Tina, and even find a silver lining to the risk of being judged.
Sometimes the things you do that make you vulnerable, they wouldn't mean as much if everyone just loved everything.
Some Like It Bot is a very powerful capper to an uneven yet ultimately rewarding season. Bob's Burgers will always be one of my favorite shows of all time. Is every episode a masterpiece? No. Are there occasional chinks in the armor? Sure. But the level of quality it's maintained throughout its run is damn impressive. As I'm recording this, the show is currently airing its 13th season, and I'm pleased to report that it still hasn't lost any of its wit or likability. I suppose it can feel a little safer than the early years, but for me, that doesn't take away from much. So far, I'm actually enjoying it a bit more than Season 12, so I guess we'll see where it leads. The appeal of Bob's Burgers comes from the charm and distinctiveness of every single character, particularly the Belcher family. The series has never lost sight of just how deeply they all love and care for one another, and much of the humor is derived from how they bounce off each other's idiosyncrasies. No two characters interact the same. They all have different ways of bonding as well as conflicting. Bob's Burgers is an absolutely wonderful series, and as long as it continues to put out hilarious and endearing content, I will always remain a loyal viewer.